Hi and welcome to the board. This is episode 47 and today we're joined by Noel. Noel is a recent addition to the Boost team, joining us as an Agile coach. Do you want to give us a little bit of background, Noel, sort of what your experience is and where you're from?
Yeah, so my name is Noel. I just moved here from Germany, and in the last few years I've been working in a company helping them to transition towards Agile, and I was working the transition with a small team, and now I'm hoping to do the same thing in Wellington.
Great.
Or New Zealand.
Excellent. So Noel and I were talking earlier this week about scaling Agile, and started talking, I suppose the conversation naturally went towards SAFe, and we were discussing how that is often way too much for a lot of organizations. When you've only got sort of maybe 3 or 4 teams, you don't need all the process and overhead of SAFe. And Noel said he'd come across what sounds like a really great way, a sort of lean way to scale Agile. So we thought we'd talk a bit more about that today.
Yeah, so when we transitioned towards Agile, we've been in contact with a company called Zipgate. They're located in Düsseldorf in Western Germany, and they've been using a Kanban style board where they had their portfolio and their program stuff on, and maybe we can show it on the camera, on the screen. So this is something they came up with as basically a Kanban board where they use business model canvas in order to show what they want to work on in the future.
Great. So, if you could bring that up again, Rebecca, great. So I see we'll maybe talk through the board from left to right. So we've got an inbox area to start with.
Yeah, so the inbox is just in general some column where you can just put up your new ideas. So it's very sketchy. It doesn't have to be in deep detail. So it's just an idea basically, or to collect your thoughts.
Right.
And so if you decide that you want to pursue one of the ideas, you will try to elaborate on this idea, and for that you use this business model canvas technique. I've prepared something. Maybe you can show that, Rebecca. So I won't go into too much detail, but this is a business model canvas, and this is just, let's say, it's for entrepreneurs, and it's a technique where you can basically take your idea and make sure that you cover every angle, like key customers, revenue streams, channels, stuff like that.
Right, so it's kind of like a lightweight business case for your idea.
Yeah, you could say that, yeah.
Great. And so when we get into that first column, would your business case, or the canvas, that wouldn't be sort of complete at that stage? It would be sort of a rough idea?
Yeah, so in the beginning you have something, and maybe you start adding the first details, but you refine it more and more over the course. So if the idea ripens and gets more mature, you would add more detail to the business model canvas.
Great. And so then we've got our business model canvas set up, and it moves into, so you've got idea and then good idea.
Yeah.
So what happens in that?
So basically all the columns have a work in progress limit. So in order to not have too many ideas on the board, and to make sure that you don't spend too much time working out details of ideas you won't develop anyway. So this is like to avoid waste. So it's a very lean thing basically, and every column has also some definition of done. So what they think should be necessary in order to move it to the next column. And basically, if you have a good idea that's like something you really want to do, you can start putting it to the Maybe we should elaborate on the portfolio program.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the top, there's this idea of a portfolio and a program.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your sort of understanding of portfolio first, I suppose?
So the portfolio is something I think they understood as the sum of all their programs. So basically all the products they push out, and I think they also included like internal stuff.
Right.
So, and The programs were like different product categories, you could say, that were run by certain teams.
Right.
And when an idea was like approved, they pushed it into the programs, and then it got implemented, basically.
Right. So once it reaches that program stage, that's where their Scrum or Kanban teams actually are producing work.
Yeah. So
producing the product.
From there on, it's like not Scrum by the books. This company has taken Scrum very far, but from there it's like business as usual.
Right.
I'd say. Yeah.
Right. So what people would understand is a sort of typical Scrum process.
Yes. It's just this is I think it's a very easy to implement way in order to align your business strategy with the development teams. So you don't have to set up like different layers of backlogs like you do in SAFe or other scaled agile approaches. And basically you have this one board sitting in a room, and everyone can join the meetings where they refine those ideas, and everyone can pitch in ideas if he wants to. And so it's very transparent. It requires co-location though, so it's analog thing. So you put it on whiteboards. But I think if you have everyone in one office or in one building, it's a good way to scale your backlogs.
Cool. So you mentioned briefly there that everyone was involved in planning, or anyone who wanted to be involved could be involved in the planning and grooming of these stories.
Yes.
Did they have sort of a time set aside for that?
So basically they had a schedule, so they met every few weeks. I don't know the exact schedule. I think this is something you have to figure out for yourself. But they met, and so they took some of the ideas and assigned them to certain people, maybe to the people who brought them up, and they refined it for the next meeting, and then they discussed them again.
Right. Okay. And so so obviously we get these ideas flowing through, and then we're going to sort of divide the work out into the teams. What I'm not sure if you saw, but what happened when an idea was split across teams? You know, sometimes work is not discrete. We can't just assign it to one team. What would happen if two teams were kind of responsible or could deliver this a single idea?
That's a good question. So maybe you can try splitting up the feature or the new product, so that two teams can work on that, so that you can put them on two backlogs. But we haven't talked about that in detail with that company. But I guess you try to split it down to like manageable packets, so that two teams can work that. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not sure if you got to see this, but once the idea had sort of been assigned to the program, did they have any specific process for getting user stories out, or was it just sort of, did it become a responsibility of a product owner to create those user stories?
The product owner would do that. So he's really responsible for the product. He takes normally, so in general, the ideas that were put on the board were often coming from the product owners. So they put them there, and they had some idea in their mind how to split it up in user stories, I guess, and then they were developed by the teams. Yeah.
Right. And I noticed at the bottom of the picture there were two little blue boxes that looked like they had a recycling bit on the bottom of those. What were those for?
Yeah, so that's basically just to avoid waste in a lean company or in a lean thinking is. So you don't want to keep an excessive list of business models, of user stories you won't be doing anyway. So as soon as this column reaches the business models reach the bottom of the column, you just have to get rid of some in order to manage to keep them all on the board. So this is just a recycling bin, you could say, so they're not lost. So really what they did, they took a folder and glued it to the board, actually, or taped it to the board. And this is where your ideas go that you can't or don't want to develop, but don't want to throw away right away.
Okay, so sort of the really lowest priority items get put in there for safekeeping if they might want to be resurrected one day.
Yeah, so basically what they want to do is just keep the programs and the teams busy enough so that there's enough stuff on the backlogs, but they don't want to keep this long list of features. So because they think that the priorities in 3-4 weeks time, they can change, and maybe we want something completely different then, and we don't want to waste time on those features we won't be implementing anyways.
Excellent. I think this is a great way for a company to get into that lean and just-in-time way of thinking.
Yeah.
Did you see any, I suppose, problems that they had with it, or?
So I think the structure of this Kanban board is something that matches their requirements, and maybe you need something slightly different, but this is something you have to figure out and you can refine over time. So in a Scrum way, you just take that maybe as a blueprint and start working with it. And if you think, okay, maybe we should adjust this column, we don't need this one, or we need another one, or we don't have that many programs, you can just adjust the board and see that it works best for you, I guess. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point. We were talking a little bit about the Spotify model as well, and how people see something like this and get really excited and then just try and pick it up and apply it to their organization exactly as it's been applied in another place. And I think that's where people often struggle, is because they're not working the way that they need to work.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you like this idea and you want to give it a go, do so, but make sure that you apply it to your business in a way that matches what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I suppose the other question that everyone is really interested in is, how big do you think this can go? Obviously, this makes a nice first step in scaling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you could run 20 teams with this, or 10 teams? I mean, I know it's a tricky question. What do you think the sort of limits are to it?
To be honest, I don't know. I would say, so Zipgate, I think they're around 120 people, and they're running something like 6 or 7 teams, no, I'm not sure. And I think you could scale it a little higher also, but I guess at some point there's a limit to what that scales. So maybe you need something bigger or a little more elaborate when you look at really big companies that run like development departments with hundreds of people and stuff like that. So I don't know, but I think to small to mid-sized companies that works really well. And yeah, I would just try it and see if it works, and if it's not big enough, you can always try implementing SAFe or less, or I don't know, Rage, whatever.
Something that works for you,
yes.
I suppose.
So this approach has the advantage you can start scaling very easy. So you can explain this in a matter of minutes, and implementing SAFe takes some time, takes some effort. Everyone needs to understand it, and it's quite an elaborate approach, but also has some downsides. And this one is something you need some whiteboards, a few pens, and you can start working with that and see where that brings you.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to mention about this is that it doesn't even have to be for a scaled team. This is just quite a nice way to manage any ideas, even if you've got one Scrum team, making sure that your user stories that come into the team are actually really well fleshed out and really good ideas.
Yeah.
So, a product owner or product ownership team could use this kind of board to plan work out and just push it to one team. You could maybe remove that program side of things, and just do the portfolio side.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I haven't seen it, so they run, like, as I said, 4 to 7 teams, something like that. And instead of these user stories, they use this business model canvas, which I think it's a nice idea.
Yeah.
And adds a little detail to the stuff they're planning to do. But I guess you can, it's just finding out what works for you, I guess. And as you said, so Spotify engineering culture it's really nice what they did, but you can take that and take this as a blueprint and just apply it to your company. You have to figure out a way that works for you and not just make a one-to-one carbon copy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's good for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Goodbye.